Picture this. It's October. Not Midwest October, not Northeast October. It's still 70 degrees during the day, wearing a light sweater at night, and it cools off just enough for a bonfire that actually makes sense. You can still go to the beach, not as a vacation, not as a special occasion, just because it's right there, 20 minutes away really. You've got 4 seasons here. Spring shows up early, pollen and company right behind it. Summer is warm and coastal without being unbearable and honestly perfect. And fall is long, crisp, and probably one of the best kept secrets. Winter is mild enough that the snow feels like a novelty, not a lifestyle. And depending on where you land, your life here might look like ocean views and sunset walks, or it could look like driving back roads, past farm stands, strawberry fields, and living out our full coastal cowgirl pungo dream, while still being 20 minutes from the water. That feeling in your gut, that's not anxiety. That's not buyer's remorse. That's you realizing you made the right choice for this season of life. And that's exactly what we're building towards. This is from Orders to Oceanfront, taking you from where am I even going to I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So let's get you there, shall we? But before we get into any of that, you need to know why I'm so intentional and how I show up and serve the 757 the way I do. I moved to Virginia Beach as a real estate agent in the middle of transferring my license. I knew real estate from previous markets. I'd help people buy homes using VA loans, help folks set up investment properties, guided people towards long-term plans and retirement homes, all using their VA loans in strategic ways. But the 757, that was brand new territory for me. So you know what I did? From day one, I became obsessed with learning every nook and cranny of this place. Not from behind a desk, not behind listing photos or Google Maps, boots on the ground. 7 in the morning, I'm driving rush hour, crowded interstate lanes to understand the real commute times, and not what the GPS optimistically feeds me. 3 in the afternoon, I'm watching base release traffic to see where it piles up and where it flows. Late at night, I'm driving neighborhoods because you deserve to know what a place feels like after dark. Is it well lit? Does it have sidewalks for you to walk your pup at night after work? You can't know that from photos. I found the coffee shops that locals actually gather at, not the tourist traps that are charging us $14 for mediocre coffee. I learned which areas tend to hold water after storms and heavy rain. I figured out the back roads that locals quietly use when the highways are backed up. I learned where people genuinely choose to live versus where the outdated advice tells them they should. I immersed myself completely in the 757, and what I found, this is an incredibly beautiful, complex place that is so much more than a military town with a beach. And if you're watching this, chances are you're standing right at the beginning of that learning curve, and I know exactly where you are right now. Maybe you've got orders in hand, or maybe you just had your first look, and you're trying to decide if this is even a duty station you want. You're Googling, what's it like to live in the Hampton Roads? What even is the 757 at 2 a.m.? Trying to make sense of what life will actually look like here. And maybe this is your first duty station, and you're excited but terrified all at the same time. Maybe you're coming back after years away and wondering what's changed and what hasn't. Maybe you're scrolling Reddit threads where people are arguing about traffic, tunnels, and neighborhoods, and you really don't know who to trust. Maybe you're thinking long term. Could you stay? Could you buy something and rent it out for later to come back to? Maybe this could be a place that you could actually build a life. Or maybe homeownership feels completely out of reach right now. I see you. I've worked with you and people like you in these exact situations countless times. And that's why I made this series. Because moving with orders is stressful enough without outdated blog posts, comment sections where everyone is yelling at each other, or Facebook groups where half of the helpful locals are agents deleting comments that don't benefit them. You deserve current, honest, hyperlocal information from someone who's here every day, who knows the streets and cares about you, making the right decision for your specific situation. So let me tell you exactly how this series is going to help you do that without overwhelming you. Think of it as your complete field guide to coastal Virginia, the 757, Hampton Roads, whatever you want to call it. Today's episode is about laying the foundation, if you will. How the 7 cities are laid out, how commuting actually feels, what living near major installation looks and feels like in real life, and the kind of local context you need before you even start looking at houses at all hours of the night. Future episodes will go deeper, the peninsula breakdowns, neighborhood walkthroughs, VA loan strategies for different stages of life, specific negotiation tactics for our military market, the buying process and what it looks like here, etc. One quick note before we move on. Today we're strictly focusing on the south side, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Suffolk. That's for anyone assigned to Naval Station Norfolk, NAS Oceana, Damneck, or Coast Guard Portsmouth. If you're headed to Langley, JBLE, Newport News, Hampton, or even Williamsburg, those are coming in later videos. Stay tuned next week. Alright, so let's dive in. 7 independent cities, 7 totally different experiences. So, what even is Hampton Roads? Or the 757? If you're over the age of 35, you probably hear Hampton Roads more often. If you're under 35, you probably hear 757. Same place, just different site. Before I moved here, I thought coastal Virginia was just Virginia Beach. A beach town, a couple dive bars, twice as many oceanfront hotels, and a couple beach cottages. That was it. Boy, was I wrong. Hampton Roads is made up of 7 independent cities that sit directly next to each other and function together in daily life. Each one has its own government, taxes, infrastructure, and personality. You'll be in the next town over before you know it if you're not looking at the signs. So here's the south side breakdown, the side of the water we're talking about today, starting with Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is one of the most populous cities in Virginia and one of the largest by land on the entire East Coast. It's not just a boardwalk. You've got dense beachside living, suburban neighborhoods, and then rural farmland, all inside one city. Then you have Chesapeake. Chesapeake is massive geographically, spanning 340 square miles. To put that in perspective, Chesapeake is geographically bigger than the entire city of Detroit. You've got cookie-cutter houses with pristine lawns and HOAs to maintain them, waterways, protected land like the Great Dismal Swamp, and farmland in between. It's the second largest city in Virginia by land area, and it feels very different depending on what pocket you're in. Then you have Norfolk. Norfolk is one of the urban core of the region. It's the home of the Naval Station Norfolk, the largest naval base in the entire world. It's historic, evolving, and has a strong local culture tied to the waterfront and port. It's home to the longest running comedy club in Virginia, the Funny Bone Comedy Club, and the city's been around since 1682, making it one of the oldest cities in the country. And the downtown has transformed and has a growing food scene. Portsmouth, or P-Town if you've been around a lot, Portsmouth sits directly on the Elizabeth River, has a deep naval and maritime roots. It's one of the oldest areas in the region and feels smaller, tighter, and more historic. Portsmouth has one of the oldest operating naval hospitals in the country. It opened in 1830. The Old Town District is historic and has cobblestone streets and some houses dating back to the 1700s. Suffolk. Suffolk is known for its agricultural history and the peanut industry, most notably for the peanuts, whose familiar faces are at the grocery store shelves and happen to have ownerships that started right here. It also has some of the newest construction in the region, and unique position for accessing both sides of the water via the Monitor Merrimack Terminal, and the comfort of the new construction and a bit more space. Now for those TJ Maxx and Target runs, we may have a wee bit longer of a drive. Now that you understand where these places are, we need to talk about how you actually move in between them, because this is where daily life is either manageable or just simply frustrating. Once you enter, there's no return. This region is shaped by water and almost controlled by tunnels. Once you enter a tunnel, you're committed. There's no exits, no shoulders, no quick reroutes. If traffic slows, you slow. If there's an accident ahead of you, you wait. If someone breaks down or runs out of gas, everything behind them stops. And when you're sitting there, surrounded by concrete and water, it's not panic, but it's not casual either. That's why locals talk about the tunnels the way they do, not to scare you, just to prepare you. Here's the part that people miss. Both sides of the water support multiple major installations. Housing demand isn't tied to one base. As long as you're within a reasonable commute range, you're not limiting your future flexibility. It's not rules. And knowing those trade-offs before you choose where you live makes all the difference. That's why locals talk about the tunnels the way they do. Once you understand that reality, the next question becomes, how do people actually navigate the day-to-day? Okay, so in your research, you should probably add the E-ZPass to the list of things to research. Yes, you're probably paying to use those certain routes. Here's how the locals think about it. Some seasons of life, you don't mind the slower lane. Other seasons, time matters more, and time is money. Maybe you're rushing home after a long day. Maybe you're valuing arriving with a little energy left in your day. Maybe this is just a chapter where convenience truly matters over everything, and living in the fast lane is worth it. E-ZPass doesn't replace the free road, but it does give you options. And around here, options matter. Now let's whip back where you'll actually be spending most of your weekdays, your duty station, and what life looks around each one of them. Let's talk about where you're actually going. Duty stations in daily life and all around them. Naval Station Norfolk, the largest naval base in the world, and that's not an exaggeration. This base supports tens of thousands of service members, civilians, and contractors every single day. And something important to understand early, which gate you use matters. Gate 5 off of Hampton Boulevard feels very different from Gate 2 off of I-564, especially during peak release times or what building you're working at. Two people working the same base can have very different commute experience depending on where they live and which gate they rely on. What surrounds the base is what probably surprises people most. Norfolk has changed a lot over the last decade. Downtown and the waterfront areas have grown into a real gathering space, if you will, not just places you pass through. The Waterside District sits right on the Elizabeth River. You can have dinner, sit outside, and watch ships move through the harbor. It's totally normal life here. And pretty cool nightlife scene too. Again is where a lot of the local energy lives and history remains. Coffee shops, brunch spots, small restaurants that locals actually frequent, and brick brownstone type colonial homes that make it feel established, walkable in parts, and very much lived in. The Chrysler Museum of Arts is free and quietly one of the better collections you'll find on this part of the country. The Nauticus and the USS Wisconsin sit right on the water and are part of the everyday landscape, not just tourist destinations. Traffic around Naval Station Norfolk follows a rhythm, one that you're probably used to. Morning inbound congestion, afternoon outbound congestion, Hampton Boulevard can bottleneck, and locals quietly use alternative routes when things stack up. This is where you start to notice that the base is only part of the equation. What surrounds it shapes your daily life just as much. Now we'll move to NAS Oceana. Oceana is the master jet base for the Atlantic Fleet. If you're stationed here, jets are just part of the soundscape, or better known as the sound of freedom. Some people barely notice it after a while, and others are way more sensitive to it. With work calls or sleeping schedules, there's no right or wrong reaction. It's just something to be aware of when you're deciding what feels right for you guys at this season. What surprises a lot of people is that Oceana isn't right by the tourist trap of Oceanfront. It sits inland, surrounded by residential neighborhoods, shopping areas, and everyday infrastructure. Red Mill is the hub for all dining and shopping for everyday in NAS Oceana living. And then there's Town Center. Town Center is a nearby hub, upcoming new dining, shopping, events, walkable blocks. It's where people meet friends and grab dinner, or spend an evening without committing to the boardwalk scene and tourism. The Vibe Creative District is more local than resort. Murals, studios, music venues, small businesses, it feels creative and personal rather than polished. And then we have First Landing State Park and Back Bay National Wildlife Refuge. It gives you access to nature that feels untouched and preserved, even though you're still very much in a metro area. Traffic around Oceana has its own rhythm, just as you're used to around bases. Afternoon release backs up at certain corridors, and locals quietly use side streets that don't always show up on our navigation apps. Once you see how different life feels around each installation, the idea of good or bad locations starts to fall apart. And now we'll move to the Coast Guard Base in Portsmouth. The Coast Guard Base in Portsmouth has a different scale and feel. It's much smaller, more contained, private. It sits right off the Elizabeth River. Portsmouth itself is one of the oldest in the region. Old Town has cobblestone streets, historic homes, and waterfront walking paths that feel quiet and settled. You'll see people walking, running, sitting by the water. It's not flashy, it's steady. Local spots are woven into daily life. Portsmouth also hosts seasonal events that bring people together without feeling overwhelming. Art shows along with the seawall, community festivals, things that feel local, again, rather than produced. Access in and out of Portsmouth typically runs through the downtown tunnel or the high-rise bridge, or even the ferry to Norfolk for a quick dinner or a Tides game and back. Locals learn quickly which option works better for them at different times of day. At this point, you've got the context. Now we got to talk about the different feel of all these when you're choosing where to live. And before we keep going, if you're getting any value from this at all, and you want to see the rest of the series and more into living and loving all things Virginia, do me a favor and hit subscribe button right now. This whole series is designed to build on itself, and you're going to want the rest of these episodes. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Alright, so let's talk neighborhoods. We'll start with Virginia Beach neighborhoods and how different it can feel. Virginia Beach is one of the largest cities on the East Coast by land area, and that matters because saying, I live in Virginia Beach, doesn't actually tell you much. Where you are within the city completely changes how your day-to-day life feels. You have the Oceanfront north end. The Oceanfront is what most people picture first. Boardwalk, ocean views, big Neptune energy. This area is active, especially from late spring through early fall. Events, festivals, visitors, movement. In the off-season, it quiets down significantly and feels more residential. Living here means proximity to the water is built into your daily routine. Walks, bike rides, quick beach access without even a plan. Parking is tighter and free in the non-peak season, and density is a bit higher. But you're trading space for location, and the trade-off is intentional. Then you have Great Neck, Point of View, Cape Story. Areas like these feel established. Tree-lined streets, mature landscaping, neighborhoods that feel settled rather than transitional. You're close to the Chesapeake Bay side, which locals often prefer for a quieter beach access and calmer water. Sunset views here are a different experience than the Atlantic side. Hilltop shopping right around the corner, amazing boutiques, dining, woven into everyday routines rather than destination outings. And then you have Town Center and Pembroke areas. It's got walkable blocks, restaurants clustered together, events happening in Central Park area throughout the year. This is where you see people out in evenings, dining, walking, gathering. It has momentum. Living here means accepting higher density and shared spaces in exchange for convenience and energy. And then we have Kimsville, Lake Edward, Thalia. This part of the city feels practical. Central location, easy access to major roads, close to shopping, services, everyday life, and everyday errands. It's not flashy, but it works. And for many people, that reliability is exactly what they're looking for. Traffic patterns matter here, especially during release hours, knowing which roads and which ones don't make a noticeable difference. And then we have Red Mill, Lansdowne, Princess Anne, and into Green Run areas. This is the southern part of Virginia Beach. Some parts are newer in feel. More recent developments have been in there. Planned communities, amenities built into neighborhoods. You're farther from the urban core, more suburbia feel, and that shows in how you drive and move throughout your day. More driving, fewer spontaneous stops, and Princess Anne can bottleneck during peak hours, and locals quietly rely on alternate routes to avoid sitting still or being caught by every red light. Then you have Sandbridge, Dam Neck, and Ocean Lakes area. This is residential beach living without resort energy. Quieter streets, fewer crowds, nature seemingly woven into your daily life. You have the Back Bay National Wildlife Refuge that sits nearby, offering open beaches, trails, spaces, and a place that feels removed from the rest of the city. And then we have Pungo. Pungo feels like an entirely different world. Working farms, seasonal produce stands, open land, and it's not unusual to pass tractors on the road or stand at a fresh strawberry stand for the spring. This is where people live when they want space, privacy, and a slower pace of life, while still being within driving distance of everything close and close enough to smell the ocean breeze, of course. And if you're sitting there thinking, wow, there's a lot of variation, that's exactly the point. And we haven't even got into Chesapeake yet. Should we do that? If Virginia Beach is all about variety within one city, Chesapeake is all about space. We have Greenbrier, Central Chesapeake, suburban, golf course, shopping hubs, schools that draw people specifically for ratings, convenient feel. You're trading some commute time for access, but to me, it kind of gives that Pembroke Town Center feel of Virginia Beach. And then we move to Grassfield and Hickory. To me, the town names say it all about these two pockets of Chesapeake. This is where you'll hear people talk about schools first, getting a better bang for their buck. There's newer construction, planned communities. You may be further from bases, but the trade-off is intentional for many buyers. And then we have Great Bridge. Great Bridge is classic. Waterway access, balance between commute and community character. And then you have two very different pockets of Chesapeake. You have South Norfolk and Western Branch, and they're on the outskirts of Chesapeake. You have South Norfolk, which is North Chesapeake, closest to Norfolk. It has a more transitional, historic feel. And then Western Branch, feeling more rural, connected by baseball fields and suburban feel. And Chesapeake rewards people who know exactly what they're optimizing for, because the city is too big to be all things at once. If there's one thing I want you to take with you after watching this, coastal Virginia isn't one experience. Not one size fits all. It's layers, it's pockets, it's timing. But what works beautifully for one season of life might not make sense for the next. And that doesn't mean you choose wrong. It means you choose intentionally. This life always is changing. This region rewards people who understand it, not the loud opinions, not the comment sections, and not the outdated advice. The people who take the time to learn how this place actually functions, how it feels to live here, move here, commute here, and build something here. These are for the people who settle in faster, stress less, and make smarter long-term decisions. And that's what Orders to Oceanfront is all about. Not selling you a place, helping you understand it. So in the next episode, we're crossing the water and breaking down the peninsula. Langley, JBLE, Newport News, Hampton, and maybe even Williamsburg. And what feels different over there? What surprises people? And what no one explains until after you've already moved. If you're still in the decision phase, and this series will help you choose with clarity. You've already selected orders here. This series will help you land with confidence. And if you're the kind of person who wants to understand a place before committing to it, not just surviving the move, but actually enjoy it, you're in the right place. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next chapter. Didn't end up here by accident. You're building something, and this is exactly where it starts. Drop a comment below. Tell me which base you're headed to and what's your biggest concern is about your next move. I read every single one, and I reply with specifics for your entire situation. See you guys in the next episode. Is this thing on?